The landscape of western Arizona has transformed from ancient mountains to prehistoric seas to a flat, uplifted plain. Just 5.5 million years ago, the Grand Canyon was cut through this plateau. It happened so fast that geologists had to think again about the awesome power of the Colorado River.
It cuts through rock not by the water wearing it away. You could pour water over rock for a long time and nothing would happen. It's the tools that the river carries. The river carries boulders and sand, and those bump against each other and they eat away at the rock.
Every day, the Colorado can carry almost 500,000 tons of rock and debris, enough material to fill more than 100 Olympic swimming pools. That is 5 tons every second. So investigating river erosion is never an easy task, because the powerful flow of the Colorado River has scoured and washed away many of the clues that the rock detectives need. They looked for evidence in the hundreds of rapids that disrupt the river's progress. The swirling rapids are created when flash floods sweep boulders into the river from the many smaller side canyons.
The river has to focus a lot of energy at these points to deal with all of the boulders that are coming in. The more coarse boulders and more resistant material that the river has to fight against to accomplish its incision, the steeper it gets.
As the water flows over the rapids, it cuts deep into the bedrock below. At this set of rapids alone, the river drops 10 feet. And there are a lot of rapids on this section of the Colorado.
So it put all these rapids together in a string through Grand Canyon, and that gives you the overall sort of unusually steep Grand Canyon profile of the river going through it.
Gravity and simple physics are at the heart of how the Colorado has carved so much rock so quickly. 5.5 million years ago, the Colorado River was flowing over the steep edge of the plateau that had been pushed up thousands of feet above sea level. The river ran rapidly over the steep downward slope and swept rough, rocky debris along in its wake. An incision formed, digging back into the edge of the plateau.
The power of the river to incise as it dropped off that huge escarpment must have been really great. And so the river quickly incised there, and that very steep drop-off of incision would have worked its way back upstream through the Grand Canyon region. It's sort of a waterfall that a few million years later has spread itself out through the length of the river.
It is this steep drop-off between the Colorado Plateau and the land beneath it that fuels the Colorado's incredible erosive power. The river begins its life high in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. For every mile that it travels, the river falls 10 feet. By contrast, the Mississippi River, a river moving 10 times as much water as the Colorado, meanders across a flat landscape. With no steep slope to drive it, the Mississippi can't carve any canyon. But the Grand Canyon is not just steep, it's also wide. And here, on the south rim, at the heart of the national park, the true majesty of the Grand Canyon is revealed. This is where the canyon is at its widest, as much as 18 miles from rim to rim. This landscape appears serene now, but its unique beauty was forged by violent forces.
Grand Canyon, oftentimes we just associate it with the Colorado River. The Colorado River is what cut the Grand Canyon. It formed the initial gash to allow the river to flow across. But what makes Grand Canyon grand is really its width and all the layers of rock that are exposed. And that isn't only solely tied to the Colorado River. What's happening is this rock that's exposed, it's being beaten on by rain, and the rain gets in there and it weathers the rock and it weakens it. And then because this is so incredibly steep, gravity will act on that material, transporting it deeper down into the river, flushing it back out. And that process just repeats over and over again to allow the canyon to get wider over time. We have classic rock falls that are cascading down onto the black rock in the far distance. Those events are indications that this is actively ongoing canyon widening and retreating from these processes.
The fall of these rocks is not a gradual process. This is erosion at its most violent.
Very few people are ever going to see Grand Canyon actually change. Like, I've spent numerous nights in Grand Canyon, and I've only heard 1 or 2 rocks ever fall. But change will happen, and when it does happen, it happens very rapidly.
The rocks fall because both harder and softer rocks are layered, one on top of the other, in the canyon walls. The harder layers are made of limestone and sandstone. These rocks don't weather easily. But the softer shale beneath is made of mud that expands when it rains, causing the shale to crumble away.
Those weaker rocks, they weather and retreat back, and they undermine the resistant cliff rocks above that will then fail as dramatic rockfall landslide events, allowing the canyon to increase its width.
The rock falls are merely the first step towards increasing the Grand Canyon's enormous width. Without the help of an accomplice, the entire canyon would fill up with debris.
Without the Colorado River, you could not have the Grand Canyon as wide as it is. By flushing that material downstream, it wipes it all clean to allow a whole new material to build up again. And once you repeat that over and over again, it allows the canyon walls to retreat back. And the entire canyon just grows. These guys continue to march and push and move all that material downstream.
The mystery of how the Grand Canyon grew so deep and so wide is being solved. The Colorado Rapids demonstrate how the steepness of the riverbed helps carve the canyon so quickly. Rock falls on the canyon walls reveal how weaker rocks rapidly widen the canyon across the plains of Arizona. But this is far from the end of the Grand Canyon story. In just the last million years, the canyon has been transformed by other, overwhelmingly powerful natural forces. Geologists have established that over 1.7 billion years, the Grand Canyon emerged from ancient mountains and prehistoric seas to become one of North America's geological icons. This is a rare look at one of the most remote and secret parts of the Grand Canyon. A series of small cone-shaped mountains line the canyon's edge. And there are flows of black rock running down from each rim. They come from a remarkable era just 725,000 years ago, when the peace of the canyon was shattered by volcanoes. This is Toroweap Point, in a remote area known as the Arizona Strip. One of the most isolated places in the continental U.S. Few people other than geologists ever see this area, although it boasts some of the canyon's most stunning views. The rock detectives come to see how explosive volcanic eruptions have changed the canyon in the comparatively recent geological past. This black rock that seems to have spilled over the rim of the canyon is an ancient lava flow, what was once boiling hot rock, forever frozen in time.
Powell talked about a river of molten magma pouring down into a river of melted snow. and he talked